All right, Geoff. Let me make sure that you can share. Okay, you may now share.
Okay.
It's all you. Go for it.
Right. Whoop. What happened?
I don't know. Go ahead and try to share again.
Is that working?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Let me try this again.
As we all know, this will not be perfect. There we go.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, as you probably know, I was part of a delegation, interfaith delegation of Green Faith and Interfaith Power and Light, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. There were about 200 folks from all over the country that came to this action. Um, and before we begin, I just wanted to have a slight land acknowledgement. So let's just take a moment of silence, and if you care to, you can speak your the land that you are from, whose land you are upon, because as we all know, this land is uh, we received this land from the indigenous peoples that inhabited this land before it was taken from them. And so let's take a moment. Up here in Washington, we are on the um, Chehalis and the Nisqually people. And in Minnesota, it is the Anishinaabe people. And as you know, I was part of this delegation. There were about 200 of us that were at this um, delegation, and we mostly stayed at a uh, United Methodist camp that was several miles away from where the actions took place. Um, but it was a great space for the faith delegations to hang out. I think I was one of four people that were part of the uh, Presbyterian Peace Fellowship, and I think we were the only Presbyterians there, but there were a lot of others: Lutherans, Catholics, Episcopalians, Methodists, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists. So it was a very interfaith group, and it was really wonderful. Uh, we spent some time with Winona LeDuc, who is a indigenous leader there who has been really advocating for stopping this line, and she's been fighting this line for 7 years. As I said, there were a lot of really wonderful indigenous leaders that we heard from while we were there. This is Mary Lyons, and she's just an amazing woman. She adopted six native children, and then when she was in her 60s, she adopted a seventh child, and this child was debilitated from fetal alcohol syndrome, but has just thrived under Mary Lyons' loving care. And then the fellow on the right, I'm not sure you can see him very well, Jim Bear is his name. He's also an ordained Baptist minister, and he's holding a sign, MMIW, referring to missing and murdered Indigenous women. One of the things that they have discovered in their resistance to the pipeline, and one of the reasons for the resistance to the pipeline is that the pipeline companies set up these man camps. And when they do that, the number of Native women who are murdered and missing goes way up. And so they see this as a need not only to protect the land, but also to protect their Native women. Line 3 is a pipeline that is designated to carry tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada, through Minnesota. The company behind Line 3 is called Enbridge Energy, and it's a Canadian company, and they want to abandon one of their 7 decaying, rusting old pipelines called Line 3. So that that smaller red line there is their old line, and they want to replace it with this larger line in the bigger red line there. But they call it a replacement, but it's not really a replacement because they have no intention of taking that old line out and repairing the damage done to the environment. The new line would have nearly twice the capacity of the old line, allowing up to 760,000 barrels of tar sands oil a day. And it's the tar sands oil, it's called diluted bitumen or tar sands oil. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But they have to cut a new corridor for half of its route, risking untouched land in Minnesota to the pipeline. So it's a direct threat to the people of Minnesota, particularly the Native people. If you take a look at this route, you can see that it's the proposed route. They voted, the Utilities Commission voted unanimously to give Enbridge everything they wanted, a certificate of need and a route permit. And it's really a huge threat because it cuts through several reservation lands. As you can see here, these are the lands that were given in 1863, 1889, 1855, and 1854 to these different Native peoples up there. And one of the part of what they are concerned about is that it will cut through their native hunting grounds, trout streams, watersheds, and nearly 43 wild rice lakes. In the event of even a pinhole leak, it'll do untold damage to this very sensitive area. And it is just a very pristine area. They harvest wild rice up there, and they're very concerned that it's not a matter of if this pipeline will leak, but when. And I don't know if you've been to northern Minnesota before, but as you know, Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. And so you can hardly throw a stone in any direction without hitting water. This is a pristine boreal forest area. It's just absolutely beautiful. And this line will cross about 200 bodies of water, including the Mississippi River, the headwaters of the Mississippi River twice. So it's not so much wind whether or not they will have spills, but when. This slide shows where spills have occurred. This is a interactive map that you can find in the one of the links that I shared in the references of resources that has been shared with you. And you can click on these different red dots here, and it shows how many barrels of oil have been spilled and what the cleanup was like. And so it's an amazing amount of information. But as you can see, it's not a matter of if these pipelines will have leaks and spills, but when. We just don't have the ability to build pipelines that don't leak or spill. Now, one of the events or actions that we had up there, there were about 2,000 people that showed up, and I was at the action at the headwaters of the Mississippi River, and it's just an exquisite area, very beautiful, and obviously these are folks that are actually standing in the Mississippi River. And on the right-hand side there, they put a chalked in message on the bridge that crosses the Mississippi River. And of course, the person they're trying to reach here is President Biden, asking President Biden to honor the treaties and stop the pipeline, because he's really the one that can change this and stop the pipeline. It doesn't make sense to stop the Keystone pipeline and to let this pipeline actually continue. While we were there, both Bill McKibben and Jane Fonda spoke on June 7th. And this was a really powerful experience for everyone to have these high-profile speakers there, but also Bill McKibben's warning was very ominous, saying that if this line is completed and that if the oil continues to flow, that it will really have a huge impact on the climate that we're not sure that we could recover from. The second action that we had was at this pumping station. They have pumping stations along the way to help them pump the oil through the pipeline. And so this is a pumping station that they that the water protectors have blockaded, and there were about 200 water protectors at this site. And in this view, you can see they put a boat trailer in at the entrance of the action, and then chained and secured themselves to the trailer to make it more difficult for the trailer to be removed. They did that to other equipment as well that was in the pumping station itself. I'd like to share a small video with you that I think will give you a good flavor of what has transpired while we were there.
We're here at the Two Inlets pump station in northern Minnesota, where hundreds of people have came to join us to stop construction that's happening right next to us on the Line 3 pipeline. So it is beautiful to see hundreds of people here right now. There are thousands of people in northern Minnesota trying to stop Line 3 pipeline. If people are wondering, what's going on here in northern Minnesota, there is a pipeline that is being built, 330 miles of it goes through northern Minnesota, and it goes through over 200 bodies of water, pristine wetlands, and we can't allow that to happen. It crosses over the Mississippi River twice, and we have an obligation to the next 7 generations to uphold the treaties, to protect this land, and to protect wild rights for future generations.
First Nations people put out a call. So me being the lone Micmac that I was, I made my way up here. These kids all deserve a future. These lands need to stop being destructed for greed. This is sacred land. These are livelihoods that they're putting at risk. And I've had enough. This whole world is filled with children that deserve the proper future that they were promised. And if nobody else wants to get up off their asses and get out here and do this type of shit, then I'll get up here and I'll do this type of shit. You know, I'm the daughter of a residential school survivor. I mean, the natives just have strike after strike after strike after strike against us. We're sick and tired. Stop fucking with First Nations people. We'll help you. We'll feed you. We can save this earth. We all like living. We all like being here. We all like going to our little country homes. You know, I've never had that luxury of a summer home away on a lake, you know. But for those that do have that out there, I'm pretty sure they enjoy it. Get your asses out here. Fight for the lake you want to live on. You have more of a right to a lake than us native people do. You know, all that kill the Indian, save the man. Well, guess what? You didn't kill the Indian. We're still here. We're still fighting, and we're going to continue to fight.
We're here at the Two Inlets pump station in northern Minnesota, where
So one of the things that Bill McKibben warned us about is that this would really hit the accelerator on climate change if this pipeline goes into production. Just to give you a little bit of information about tar sands itself, it's a carbon intensive oil, and it produces about 21% higher greenhouse gas emissions over its production and life cycle. And the additional oil transported through line 3 is equivalent of the carbon dioxide of 16 to 18 million cars every year the pipeline is operated. It'd be devastating for this. This is a picture from the Paradise Fire, as you may recall, a couple of years ago. Expanding the line 3 would really be much more than all of the emissions of all of Minnesota in 2016. And so it's important to stop this pipeline in its tracks for the sake of the climate. This is a picture of the Canadian tar sands area. It's a beautiful boreal forest, which means a northern forest. And Canada has something like 47% of all the boreal forests in the world. And unfortunately, this is what it looks like when they finish digging out and mining the tar sands oil out of the area. See, between 2000 and 2012, there was 2 million acres of boreal forests that were lost or degraded in the tar sands region. But the folks are, indigenous populations are continuing to fight against this pipeline. There have been several hundred people that have been arrested so far, and most Minnesotans do not want the pipeline to be run through their state, and yet it's being forced upon them. And let me give you one more video of Winona LaDuke that I think will be helpful in understanding where we are.
We think about who we are as treaty people. We're coming from all over now. This is a national issue, and we're standing up behind Indigenous leaders like our dear sister Winona LaDuke and other Indigenous leaders who've been standing up and helping us have a guiding light by how they're leading. Let's say it out loud. We see you.
We see you.
We're with you.
We're with you.
We're gonna walk with you all the way until this pipeline is stopped.
We're gonna walk with you all the way until this pipeline is stopped.
It's really a remarkable time that we are here now, and we all know it. You know, I like what Erin Dottie Roy says when she talks about pandemic as portal. She says in the history of the world, pandemics have forced societies to change, and this one's no different. You know, so I'm so grateful y'all came out, because, you know, when we signed the treaty, you could drink all the water from every creek, right? And every lake and every river. And our understanding is that's how it will continue. You know, our treaties were agreements, and our ancestors, our people were negotiating these treaties that would protect our rights for generations ahead. You know, from our perspective, we're all going to keep pushing, and we need you to be there with us. Well, it's not just our problem, it's everybody's problem.
Yes.
You know, one of the things is that we actually need infrastructure for people, not the oil companies.
Right. Amen.
So we're going to protect the water, and we're going to keep pushing them. And we know that it's possible to stop a pipeline. We just saw the Keystone XL get canceled. We just saw the Jordan Cove pipeline get canceled out to Oregon too, right? That was right. That was good work out there.
Down to the well, let the water ring me like a bell. Let the water ring me like a bell. Rock me, let the water rock me like a child. For this well will not run dry. No, this well will not run.
I'm here because I'm a faith leader, and so I'm interested in hearing what the request is for repair, so that I can help lead a congregation in real practical terms, like not just talking about it and reading about it, but what does repair actually look like in action?
Let's see. Well, let me stop that and just say that one of the beautiful things about it was them saying that we're all treaty people. They made these treaties with the government, and so we often think of the indigenous populations as being treaty people. But their message to us is that we're all treaty people, that we are all bound by those treaties, not just the indigenous population, but also those of us that that are citizens of this government that made those treaties with them. And it's our responsibility to make sure that those treaties are protected and that the rights of the indigenous population is protected. So it was a very moving and powerful time. And there's information in that chat. See, I don't know if we can put that up.
Yeah, I showed that. I shared it before.
Okay, thank you. Resources. And in that, there's a phone number you can call, because we need to get President Biden's attention on this, to stop this pipeline. It just does not make sense to stop the Keystone pipeline and to let this other infrastructure be built when, you know, it's going to be 113 in Portland today. And people all over the country are suffering, all over the world are suffering. And we need to do what we can. So they are still looking for people to come and support them. There's a lot of folks that are going up there, continuing to go up there. And so I would invite you to consider doing that or contributing to their bail fund in some way if you can. There's a link for that also on in that file. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Great. Yeah, folks, go ahead and just unmute and ask Geoff any questions. We'll go for about 10 minutes or so because we're getting on almost 11:45. So we'll go ahead and ask any questions for Geoff. Thank you for being there, Geoff, by the way, on behalf of so many groups. So grateful for your time.
Geoff, what is the thinking about what will be the motivational levers for Biden to stop the pipeline? What levers can be pulled?
Yeah, well, I think they were hoping that having Deb Haaland be the new Interior Secretary as the first Indigenous Secretary of the Interior would be one of those. That the pressure, Biden has said that he is going to be aggressive on climate change, and we're just not seeing it. I got word, maybe you saw it too, earlier this week, that the administration is defending the Trump decision to approve the pipeline. So now they're going to court and defending that. And so I think it just has to be the sheer numbers of people that call and say, we cannot let this stand, because this will be a disaster for our efforts to turn around this climate disaster. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. Thanks. Any others? Yeah, Evan?
Is there an explanation for a difference between either the magnitude of greenhouse gases involved in this pipeline versus the Keystone that was stopped? Have you heard any logic that the Biden administration might give for not stopping this one while stopping Keystone?
No, I haven't heard anything like that. Maybe others have, but I certainly haven't. Although, to be honest, I haven't really gone looking for it, looking into their, any submissions to the court to defend this action.
I wonder if it has to do with the massive amount of protests against the Keystone pipeline. There was a huge public outcry and protests everywhere. And I wonder if this one needs to be scaled up.
Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping, that we can scale this up to really put the pressure on the administration to do it.
I saw Shirley and Geoff try to get in.
Yeah, Bruce, can the phone number and a little blurb be put in all our publicity, that goes out to the church, the back of the bulletin and that sort of thing, to just keep getting that in front of our congregation?
Sure. Yeah, if it's hard to say they can get in everything. I can't promise that. There's just no bandwidth for that, but we can put it in the back of the bulletin.
But on that link that Bruce shared, there is things for you to put in social media, and so on your own social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, What the number to call to get through to the Biden administration and leave a message. I've been on Twitter and trying to send messages as often as I can about this. We do need to scale it up. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a couple more. Or we can be done.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm not, unless anybody's dying to jump in.
Well, I have a quick question.
Oh, go for it.
And it might not be quick, but I'm wondering if the people attending Geoff's discussion today, if anybody is interested in following up as a First Pres community, maybe even part of Cool Planet, or even separate from that, to figure out some actions that we can take here at First Pres.
Well, and let me say that for everybody who was up there, 2,000 plus people, I have to say that it was so incredibly well organized. I was just blown away that they were able to take this diverse people from all over the country and figure out how to get us housed or camping out or trained, and then put into groups. They had a red team, yellow team, and green team. The red team were those who are willing to risk arrest. Yellow was maybe not. Green team, we don't want to be arrested. And there were roles for everybody, even for those that weren't able to participate directly. So the action doesn't necessarily need to be on the ground there. It could even be supporting people who are there with some logistics. It could be going there and hanging out and giving them supplies. They need people to take supplies around to these different camps, and supporting the resistors who, as you saw from some of the video, are trying to lock themselves to equipment to prevent the pipe from being built. So
do you know if there are other events like that are being planned?
Yeah, on my Signal app group, I get messages from people who are continuing to go up. I don't know of any faith groups per se, but we could certainly be in touch with the Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light to see what other actions, if there are other actions that we could support in that way.
If you don't know what Signal is, just for those of you, just dropping some tech knowledge there for you. Also, Signal is a texting service that is encrypted. So that's actually what most movements, gatherings, all that uses for communication, and not via our iMessage and all that. You use Signal because it's an encrypted, safer messaging app. So if you haven't got it yet, at some point it'd be great to use it. I see Edie raising her hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Geoff, it looked from the photos and videos like the construction is ongoing, and it sounds like the need is ongoing, right? Like there are folks there, at all times in some capacity or another. Is that right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is not a one and done kind of thing. It's ongoing, and they're continuing to ask for help and assistance.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Geoff, I just want to thank you. It was a great presentation, and really appreciate the photos and the videos and your thoroughness with the background. I mean, really, really well done. Thank you for being there, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks. And I have to say, it was such a privilege to be there, quite honestly.
Yeah.
With those Indigenous leaders, and it was a spiritual experience. So
that came across.
Yeah.
That feels like a good moment to end. So again, thank you, Geoff, for being there, and the diaspora of First Presbyterian Church that is all over the place and growing. So, and if you are so Susan, you put out a call, right? So if folks are interested in doing things, which I know we're all yearning for the doing thing. This feels like a very tangible something that is being organized. And there were, if it scales up like the Keystone, there were ways to send money, send supplies, get there. Who wants to kind of be the holder of contact so and so? Because that's really what we need.
Yeah, I wonder, Geoff, if you'd be willing to be that person. And I don't know if you save the names of people who are at this, then he could just send out an email. Here's some action items. Here's a letter to write.
Yeah, we don't, because it's a continuation of worship.
Okay.
So it's 700 names that have all registered for worship over.
I could certainly put a few things out on the church email list.
Yeah, not everybody is on that. What would be great, Geoff, is if you gave us a little blurb for back of the bulletin, and everybody should just make sure, if you're going to look at it, look this week, and there will be something from Geoff in there about how to continue on. If that's probably our quickest, most efficient way to, so just make sure you look this week, and we can put a slide in next week that kind of as a reminder as well. That would be an easy.
And I'd be glad to reach out to Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light and ask them for guidance on what faith communities can do going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we will. Ellen, you just asked the question, so this has all been recorded, and we will we'll post that up. And Geoff, if you want to send a link to the slides, I don't know if those are Google Slides or what you did, that we can include some of that in some of the things we're doing too. That would be great.
Sure.
All right, you all.
All right.
Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Geoff, for everything again. We are grateful for you and for this church and all those that helped you get there and all that. So thank you.
Thanks.
All right, all. Have a good rest of the day.
Mhm.
Take care. All right.